Hey, welcome back to another week of Guided by Faith. I'm your host, Jay Holland, and I'm excited to jump into this topic that we are going to look at this week. It really centers around one of my favorite topics altogether, and it's something that I got to preach about just a couple weeks ago on Easter Sunday. You know, there's a moment at the end of the Gospel of John that feels like it was written just for people like us, living in a skeptical age. So Jesus has risen from the dead, and he's appeared to many of the disciples, but he hasn't yet appeared to Thomas. And Thomas makes a statement in John chapter 20, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my fingers where the nails were and put my hands into his side, I will not believe. A week later, Jesus shows up again. This time Thomas is there, and Jesus says, put your finger here, see my hands. Reach your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. And at this, Thomas falls to his knees and he cries out, my Lord and my God. And then Jesus says something for every future generation, including you and I. Jesus says to Thomas, because you've seen me, you've believed, but blessed are those who have not yet seen and yet have believed. So let me be clear. Jesus in this is not asking for blind faith. He's offering something better, a real historical bodily resurrection that can stand up to scrutiny. But it is a faith. You know, we have not yet seen Jesus. We have not yet touched Jesus. And so I think it's a really good, important question. How in the world can we possibly believe that the resurrection is true? Is it just a myth? Is it just an inspirational thing? It sounds like a great metaphor for rising up and overcoming things, but that's not the way that the Gospels present it. It's not the way that the New Testament presents it. And truthfully, if the resurrection is not true, the Christian faith just crumbles. Not if the resurrection is not a truly inspiring event, but if it's not a true historical event, my faith crumbles, your faith crumbles, Christianity is just not true. So over this week and into the next week, I'm going to present to you some of what I feel like are the most compelling reasons why I believe that Christianity is true because of the resurrection. And so I'll just start with this strong statement. There is more historical evidence for the resurrection of Jesus than for the life of Confucius, for the voyages of Christopher Columbus, and the conquests of Alexander the Great. Let me say that again because it's a pretty bold statement. There's more historical evidence for the resurrection of Jesus, historical evidence, than for the life of Confucius, for the voyages and details of the voyages of Christopher Columbus, or the military conquest of Alexander the Great. See, we don't have the original writings of Confucius. We trust reports about Christopher Columbus and Alexander that were written decades or even centuries after they died, and yet their lives are rarely questioned. The resurrection of Jesus, on the other hand, is supported by multiple eyewitness accounts written within the lifetime of those who were there, who witnessed the resurrection, and backed by a movement that should have never survived unless it was true. So over the next few episodes, what I want to do for you is unpack what I feel like are the most compelling reasons why I believe the resurrection is true, including some of the details of the eyewitness accounts, the fact that there is no body in the tomb, and if there was not an empty tomb, they could have produced a body, they could have squashed Christianity really quickly, and then the existence of the church altogether. And then next week, I'm really excited to kind of give you anecdotal evidence of the massive change and transformation that belief in Jesus and belief in the resurrection has done, not just in individuals' lives, but in cultures altogether. So it's going to be a great couple of weeks, and I'm excited for you to stay around. But I just want to give you this encouragement as you finish out your Monday. Number one is do you truly believe that the resurrection is true? Do you truly believe that Jesus rose from the dead? Because I believe if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Jesus is not worth paying attention to, because he was claiming to be God. He was claiming to be the only way to heaven. He was claiming to be the way, the truth, and the life. And he also said, you're going to know it's true because you're going to kill me and I'm going to get up and rise from the dead. And if he didn't do that, then he was a lunatic, or he was a madman, or he was a liar. He knew he wasn't God, but was claiming to be. But if Jesus did rise from the dead, then all of his claims, you have to pay attention to them. You have to pay attention to them. You know, and there's something that I was thinking about as well. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the Apostle Paul says this: if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is useless, and so is your faith. We are of all people to be most pitied. So Paul says, not just, you know what, like the Christian life is a good life to live. And even if Jesus doesn't raise from the dead, then it's still like a good way. You'll still have good morals and good ethics. He says, if Jesus really didn't raise from the dead, then what we're saying is in vain. What we're trying to live is in vain. And we should be pitied and felt sorry for more than everybody, because we are sacrificing on this earth. We are denying ourselves on this earth. We are doing hard things, suffering for the Lord on this earth in hopes of a reward to come, in hopes of a Savior to return. But if he has raised, everything changes. Everything changes. And so this week, I want to help encourage you and convince you that the resurrection is truly true. And so just today, as we finish out, my question to you is, are you living your life as if you believe that Jesus truly rose from the dead? And if you're not, what's stopping you? Come back the rest of this week as I start to lay out some of my favorite points on how I know that Jesus rose from the dead.